Greetings, it's Adam with Errata Non Grata, and I'm catching up on some Atari acquisition news here. I did see this the other day, but I just didn't get a chance to really record anything until now, and in fact, with my current setup, I'm not able to use a camera, so I'm making do with what I've got. But anyways, Atari's been on a roll with Wade Rosen as the CEO, and I've talked many times about the acquisitions that he's undertaken, such as purchasing Retro IP. I don't think I did any news about when he purchased, or the company purchased, MobyGames.com, a games database. But now, AtariAge, which is probably the biggest retro community out there as far as, well, at least Atari focused things goes, but it's not just Atari. Within the forums there are many other systems. I mean, obviously you have all the Atari ones, but ColecoVision, Bally Astrocade, Odyssey, Sega Genesis 3DO, Apple II computers, Commodore stuff, modern systems, arcade and pinball prototypes, etc. And there's also a store where I've personally purchased several games from AtariAge over the years. And so these forums have brought together a lot of people who are into Atari from all over the world, and some of them are really good at coding as well. And so a lot of the homebrew releases, not all of them out there, but a lot particularly the Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, Lynx, and Jaguar have come from people who are on the AtariAge forums. And Atari has been somewhat connected to the AtariAge forums. I mean, I guess it varies a lot. I don't know for sure how many Atari employees have accounts on AtariAge, but once in a while you do see them commenting on a thread here and there. But anyways, from the Atari General forums, this is where Albert Yarusso, the founder of AtariAge, posted as to his reasoning for selling the site to Atari, and gets a bit into the history, but also the challenges of operating a site like this, but also gets into what's going to change. And for the most part, it's not going to change as far as the site moderation and all that is not going to change. In fact, over on this thread, the Q&A, he says that he will continue to be involved in AtariAge. He's now officially a full-time employee of Atari, and there's no plans to change the site or the mission, just that there will eventually be a new e-commerce infrastructure, and that will involve Atari. I guess they'll be putting some capital there, which will help out. And as far as the community goes, there's not going to be any changes. Like, I thought it was interesting that he brought up this question: will Atari censor speech within the forums, including criticism of Atari? And says that there's not going to be any changes there. Now, further down, there is somebody who says, well, what happens if, here we go, Thomas Jentz, who is a pretty prevalent Atari 2600 game developer, who asks, is there a way out of this if Atari should be taken over by the wrong people again? And I think that was addressed somewhere down the line, but let's see. Here's an employee from Atari who also brings up that it's a fair question, that Atari has changed hands many times over the years, that there have been a lot of employee changes. Like, the group that's in charge now, it seems to be taking it in a great direction and trying to restore the spirit of Atari, and just looks like that's kind of what they're trying to do. And that's something that Albert said in his initial post Right here, he says, "This is the first version of Atari I've seen since the 1980s that's taking many positive steps to restore the magic that we all associated with the original company, the Atari that left so many of us with enduring memories of experiencing the Atari 2600 for the first time, learning how to program on an Atari 800, or pumping quarters into an amazing arcade game produced by Atari in the heyday of arcades." And, I've discussed that with some of the news bites here and there as well. But of course, I guess it's not really the question of, what happens if some people come in again where all they care about is trying to squeeze blood from a stone with the IP that they have. I mean, it's a legitimate concern. I just don't know how it can really be answered. And I didn't see one there. But again, this Atari employee, I didn't catch what their exact position within the company is. Was answering things, saying, we really want to preserve these classics, and that's part of the mission of Atari. Well, that's the mission of AtariAge, and now it's the mission of Atari. Let's see. So down here on the first post, it also mentions that you have the new 2600 Plus console, and they're looking to augment content for that. They have the XP line. I mean, one thing that I would like to see with the Atari XP line, which if you're not familiar with that, that's new releases or re-releases on cartridge form that work. They're brand new, but they work in an original Atari 2600 console. The main sticking point with that is just they're pricey. $100 for an Atari 2600 game, especially one that's very common out there. To me, that's just too much. And now, not everybody's felt the same way. There have been people who have been buying that up, and they're fine paying $100 for that. But for me, it's like, how many versions of Yar's Revenge do I need, or Asteroids, or Centipede, whatever, and they still work fine. I mean, sure, maybe one day my cartridges will stop working, but is it worth it to me to pay $100 for that? Not really. So hopefully, with the resources that Albert has augmented with Atari as they are now, they can maybe bring those prices down. That's something I would like to see. But also, the mention is that Atari wants to work with the homebrew developers and tie that in more with, say, even the VCS. And so here we go. Yeah, Atari is interested in bringing more content to the VCS platform, and a few homebrew authors have already been working with Atari to sell their games on the VCS. And there will be even digital downloads on the store once the e-commerce site rolls out. And that was one of those promises that came out early on about the VCS, was that it was supposed to be this platform where homebrewers at, say, AtariAge could release their content to that and not just rely on the old, 40-ish year old hardware, more than 40-year-old hardware, to make that happen. And so if they can really get that done, then that can make the VCS more appealing. That's been one of my big criticisms of it, is just that it doesn't have content that really distinguishes it from anything else. Usually there will be those who say, well, it has a great indie store. Everybody has a great indie store. You can find indie games on Steam. You can find them on the Switch. You can find them on the PS5, the Xbox Series X, anything. Everywhere has an indie store. And so that's not a compelling purchasing reason. But if you start adding in more homebrews across all the different Atari systems, then that does become more of a compelling buy, at least to me. But maybe to you, I don't know if it would or not. But very interesting development, and again, I think it's a good indication of what Atari is trying to do. I mean, that spirit, that magic of Atari, it was, in the early days of the company, throughout most of the 1970s, they had a motto, and that was innovative leisure. And that's the spirit that I think they need to continue to work at recapturing, and it seems like that's the direction they are going in. And so as long as that keeps up, then I think it's a good time to be an Atari fan. But let me know what you think, and we'll catch you on the next video.